Welcome to Personal Injury Marketing Minute.
Welcome to the Personal Injury Marketing Minute, where we quickly cover the hot topics in the legal marketing world. I'm your host, Lindsey Busfield, the Vice President and Partner over at Optimize My Firm. Today, I'm joined by Jacob Adberstein, co-founder and CEO of Reflekt Legal. Jacob's background spans engineering and highly reliable system design, and today he focuses on AI built specifically for legal intake and law firm workflows. Today, we're talking about AI intake for personal injury law firms and what's actually workable today, where firms should be cautious, and whether AI is truly ready for a role that can directly affect signed cases and case value. Thank you so much, Jacob. I'm so excited to have you here on the show. We just got back from PIMM in San Antonio a couple of weeks ago. I met you out there and was really impressed by what you have going on. So, Jacob, one of the big topics that we were running into at PILMA is AI, and AI in marketing, AI in operations, AI in case management. And it is getting so much attention right now just because of the versatility that AI offers law firms. But with all of that in mind, with all of the attention that it's getting, talk to me a little bit about what AI intake actually looks like in a legal practice.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's really cool, the production that you have and everything. It's very, very cool. Also, like you said, enjoyed chatting with you at Pilma. You were by the water container, so had to go by you guys and say hi pretty often.
It was the strategic water cooler placement. We got
yeah,
lucky that there was one water cooler and it just happened to be right by our booth.
For us, it was similar with the coffee. We were right
Yeah.
by the coffee, but the only side effect is like I had so much coffee, because like I saw people there and I was like, oh, I need to go talk to them. It's like, well, I have to get some coffee while I talk to them. So side
Right.
effect, too much coffee.
Too much. At least they had a little bit of decaf there,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah,
And it was so cold in that conference room.
yeah,
And at one point, I was drinking coffee out of necessity to keep from turning
yeah,
blue.
yeah. There was a lot of people getting coffee and tea just to stay warm. But no, it was a great time, and yeah, like, thank you for having us. And I guess going back to your question, what do we see about AI in intake, particularly for PI? I think I'll take a quick step back, and what you said is very true. Like right now, there's AIs that talk everywhere, and it's supposed to be, right? Like it's great, but there is, that the side effects of it is there's a lot of noise. You don't really know what's legit, what's not legit. Companies can come and say we do all of this, and some of them can, right? Some of them come and say, hey, we do the same, and they can't. A firm goes and talks to one person and they're like, nope, this doesn't work. And you make a blanket assumption across the board, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting point of view right now, and an interesting part of the AI journey, specifically with legal being a legacy industry where tech was not really a primary concern. And then all of a sudden AI is just like, oh, by the way, this is happening here and it's everywhere.
And it's touching every part of your business.
Yeah.
And when it comes to AI in particular, I was excited to have you on because intake is clearly one of the most important parts of a legal operation. And I mean, and coming from marketing, I would say that intake is right neck and neck because, as a marketer, I can get clients through the door. I can get those calls coming in. But if your intake team isn't getting those calls to convert into cases, then that's hundreds of thousands of dollars that you just flushed away in marketing, and all because of your intake team. And so when you have AI software at its infancy, and we were truly seeing it at its infancy a couple of years ago, and you are trusting it with something as important as your intake at that pivotal moment, it's a little scary. And we definitely saw some horror stories a couple of years ago with AI intake bots or agents or whatever, wherever it was back then. But we also saw some really cool adaptations of it as well. So for law firms who aren't familiar with using AI intake or haven't heard the stories or haven't seen it done well in practice, can you give us a little bit of an overview of how AI is being used as a part of that intake process?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I can tell you a little bit about what, obviously us from Reflekt Legal, we do. We have AI, and we specifically use the term employees because that's a little bit about how we see the future and as the vision of a company. We know, interactions, law firms, everything is relationship based. So even from our point of view as a company, thinking of calling them agents or bots, it's not the vision of what it should be. It should be an employee, right? Because employee means relationship. It means part of your firm. And for instance, in our case, we have AI employees that are conversational. So they handle the phone calls, text messages, even emails for law firms, particularly in the intake side. Meaning a firm gets a phone call that instead of, an answering service or someone inside the firm, or you go into voicemail, very importantly, the AI answers the phone call. It can determine if it's an existing client, if it's a new client, if it's a third party, so like other counsel, insurance adjusters, and conversationally, it will help them out, right? If it's a new lead, it can do the intake, follow the qualification questions, ask the right things, hear the story, so on and so forth. If it's an existing client, it can, route to the right person in team, give a case update, whatever it is. But everything from the point of view that it's an extension of the firm. I agree with you. Like, it's scary, and when we see it with the law firms, like, it's scary to just be like, hey, I'm just going to let AI answer my phone calls, right? Like, we're in a business of relationships, right? Like, people are not going to want to talk to AI, right? That's what we hear often. Or like, what if AI messes up? And I think you were right in saying, like, over the years, the technology just has adopted or improved. Previously, the capabilities might have been not there. Now, not every, company doing it is there, but some of them are doing a good job. In the case of us, we knew that the biggest thing for intake was the nuance of the conversations, right? There's nuance in, the specific legal lingo, there's nuance in the case type, there's nuance of scenarios that can happen, there's nuance in empathy and emotions that are at play. And we immediately as a team decided that just a ChatGPT, just an agent, just an LLM is not enough to capture that. We actually took a step back and saw how the human brain works. Not to get too much into it, but like, we have, there's, a scientist called Daniel Kahneman. He talks about system 1 and system 2 thinking. System 1 is your LLM brain. Think about it that way. Your predictive, if I ask you, hey, Lindsey, how are you doing, right? Your almost automatic answer is good. And you, like, you're predicting what you should say next. You're not having intense thought about like, well, I'm doing good because I had pancakes today and I feel great, right?
I'd be great if I had pancakes today.
I know.
Let's just put it.
I know, but you're not thinking it,
That's not what I'm
consciously,
actively
right?
thinking.
But if I
Right.
tell you, hey, what's 17 times 24, and do the mental math, and unless you're like some math Olympiad that like knows it perfectly, it's going to be on your type 2 brain, right? You're going to have to be like, wait a minute. And whenever you have those type of tasks, even for us humans, they even feel physically uncomfortable. Like if you were to like right now and sit and try to do the math in your head, it feels physically uncomfortable because you have to like,
It hurts a little bit.
yeah, because you have to like hold data, like, memory and context, like, okay, I have to carry the one or whatever, right? And there's a lot of that type of situation happening in the phone calls, right? That the human brain can process and do the reasoning a little bit on the fly, but just an LLM at the current state is not the best at, right? Sometimes a person calling in for a case, they might say something, but what they really mean to say by that something might be slightly different, right? And if the LLM is just responding to the predictive way of answering, the statistical next best option, it might not capture that well.
And I mean, I guess the biggest challenge that I think of is that empathy piece, because there is nuance to empathy and there's linguistic nuance to empathy. So, as you said, people might say something, but it might not be literally what they mean by that. And when somebody is contacting, especially a personal injury attorney, they are in crisis mode. They might not be at their top critical thinking capacities. They need to be met with first empathy and then the resources that they need in order to move the case forward. And so talk to me a bit about the response that people are having when they talk to the AI employee. Because I know personally, like I will sit here if an AI agent bot employee answers the phone and I just want to talk to somebody now, the most frustrating thing I can do is sit here and go, representative, representative. So, how do you meet that challenge?
Yeah, yeah, we get that all the time. But I actually flip it a little bit to you. When you answer that phone call and you say you talk to an AI agent, what about it makes you think that's an AI agent?
Well, I can pick up on it pretty quickly, because they don't necessarily understand what it is that I'm asking, and
Hmm.
they aren't giving. I can't have a back and forth conversation with them. For example, I had to reach out to a medical provider with an issue that I had with a prescription,
Hmm.
and I said this is written in a confusing way, and because it was written in a confusing way, I took the wrong dosage amount. And now I am in a crisis situation. I'm talking to an AI agent, and not only are they asking me to clarify what happened when I thought that I presented the information in a very clear way that a human would understand, but they also can't take action on it independently.
Yep.
So it's going to eventually have to go to a human in order for a next step to happen. And I would just rather talk to the human immediately.
Right, right. And I think a lot of the things that you said are true. We recently gave a talk about this specific thing, and then mainly on trust, right? Like what makes like when someone says, "I want to talk to a human," what does it actually mean to talk to a human, right? And it's not just that the voice sounds nice, right? That's in my opinion, that is like the 5% of the equation. The
Right.
real thing, and you said it yourself right now, I think boils down to competence, right? Is the system smart enough to actually make me feel heard, understand what I'm truly trying to say it, and then act on it,
Right.
right? So imagine, you have someone like, I don't know, like a person that for some reason their voice sounds really robotic, right? But it's a person, right? And you call and you're like, okay, well, you sound robotic, but they get you helped out, right? They understand what you're trying to say. They, if you're asking a question about your case or you want a status update or you want to, talk to your lawyer or leave a message, they can actually execute on it and they make you feel like they actually understood what you said. How much of that impact was on how the voice sounded versus on the competence level, right? And that's what from the beginning, we tried to work on by building our own reasoning engine, the ability to tackle that competence side, because the models for the voice itself are going to keep getting better, right? Like even right now, I can tell you, we ran a quick study of some of our callers. We have thousands of calls per week. We anonymized them and we saw that only 1.6% of the callers asked if it's like, hey, are you on AI? Only 1.6%, right? That doesn't mean that other people didn't notice, right? That the rate at which people might have noticed might be higher, but they were helped. They engaged with it. They had no problem because of the competence side, because of the reasoning side. They, at the end of the day, are getting to where they need to get, and they're calling for help for some reason, right? And they're getting to that point where they're being heard. And I can see that by, the conversations, the amount of people that say thank you at the end. Like, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Like, you don't really say that, right? To a machine, right? Right? You don't really say that to a machine, but you say it here and it's scary. But I think more than, how a voice, like you said, oh, you can pick up that it sounds like AI. It's not just the voice, it's the underlying cues, both on the language it uses, the word choice, the verbiage, the intonation. Here's where a little bit of empathy comes and everything to signal to the caller that, hey, I actually understand what you're trying to tell me, right? And I actually can help
Right.
you. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, and again, you coming back to my example, I know that the case that I was presenting this company with was a unique situation. Like this isn't something that they're going to see 10,000 times over. So, yes, I'm going to need some specific help with this that an AI agent just can't accurately predict. But on the flip side of that, everybody calling a personal injury attorney is also going to feel like their case is unique and that there are special things about it because they don't go, oh, a car accident is a car accident is a car accident. Or an attorney can look at that and say, yes, this is going to be 90% the same case to case to case. the person calling needs to be able to feel like they are unique and be told, yes, you are special, and empathize on that level, as well as having that competency piece moving forward. So how are you able to adjust for that?
Yeah. So I mean, I agree. We as humans, it's part of our psychology that we feel unique. It's only me. I'm special, right? And when I call it's my case, it's whatever it is, and a lot of it is being heard. Like empathy, more than just word choices, giving the right verbiage back, the right words to make them understand that I hear you, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so that's the biggest part. I want to say, where was I going with this? Yeah, I would say it's like the verbiage. Then there's the empathy tone. Oh, here's the other part I was gonna go to. Um, it's easy to and also we said this for the conference. It's very easy to then compare AI at its worst, right, to people at their best. So that's the
Yeah.
other flip side, right? You were talking about unique scenarios, right? Where maybe like it's not the 10,000 one, right? It is actually something rare. Could a call center, in another country help you with that specific edge case?
Well, they could at least know that this is outside of their understanding
And
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 then
the,
direct it to an attorney. Yeah.
and exactly that. And that type of level of behavior AI can do, right?
Yeah.
There's limits that AI can do. Like, hey, I understand that, like self-driving cars, right? I actually equate, voice AI and intake a lot to self-driving cars. There is the 80%, 80, 90%, whatever you want to call it, of the path that's like predictable, like, hey, go straight, turn right, turn left. But then that 20%, right, of like now being the city where there's going to be buses, pedestrians, people messing with the AI, like with the drivers, the self-driving cars on purpose, all of that. So you need to have a system in place to reason those scenarios and then triage them. So like you said, hey, I understand that this is outside of the scope of my knowledge, just like a person would, right?
Right.
And this is something that should actually then be escalated, right?
Right.
And the current AI systems, if architected well, can do that, right? I hear the limitations. Here's up to what point you can talk. One example is like we sometimes have people call, the reception of a firm. The AI answers, and they're like, "Hey, I'm in the parking lot. How do I get upstairs?" Right?
Yeah.
Right? And the AI knows the address of the firm, but it doesn't know the inside
How
layout.
to get yeah.
Right. So it's like, hey, I am working remote. Let me transfer you to the staff that is in the office, and they can probably come out and help you. Okay, thanks. Right. So just like you would train, it didn't matter if it's AI. It was someone, even if you had a VA, they don't know the layout to your office, right? So by approaching this through a lens of employee, like what do you currently do with your employees if they're remote? You can actually start carving out a lot of the behavior and how AI can actually handle more than people think.
Well, and I think that a lot of the reservations that people have is because they are comparing it to AI at its worst, and they saw AI a couple of years ago. And for those who weren't really paying attention to AI in 2023, 2024, how can you talk us through a bit of the timeline of where it was, where some of the shortcomings were, and how we've adapted through that to where we are now?
Yeah, yeah. So the first thing is latency and speed, right? The models have gotten better to the point that you can, intake, no pun intended, but they can intake more data faster at cheaper rates that, when we're talking about, a legal intake that someone tells a full case or something like that, it can process that information much faster, and then you can build systems around it to then make the decisions. That's on the reasoning and intelligence side of the models. It's really come a long way. I'm sure. I mean, the average population can even see it with ChatGPT and Claude, right? Like, as the years go by, like it gets better. Like it creates even the images it creates. It's like, oh my, it's getting better and better.
It's like, I know we don't have 8 fingers on one hand
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, yeah. So that same progression people see from the consumer side on images and ChatGPT, you can then translate to reasoning, and the speed at which it can process things. But then the other really crucial part is the voice, right? Of course, in order to complete, even if it's 5%, it's still very important, 5% of the conversation. It needs to feel, realistic. It needs to feel, in sync with what we expect, right? If you say something sad, you can't answer back with a happy tone. And even though you say words that are empathetic, you have to answer in the correct tone. And the voicemails keep getting better and better, pretty much month to month. I obviously I'm in tech, I'm an engineer. I obviously have, a biased opinion about voice AI, but, I generally think that, give it another year, give it a year and a half, most people will not be able to tell. They're talking to an AI. Even right now, I can tell you out of 1,000 conversations, there's thousands of people that can't tell. But in the next years to come, it's going to get increasingly harder to tell.
Which is a little terrifying. But yeah, I mean, I know that there's some great applications for it, but that there are going to be people who are using that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's always going to be people who use it for the bad side. But I mean, I get excited because, especially in legal, right? Like you said, you're talking, if you're talking to a lawyer 9 out of 10 times, is not a good scenario, right? Like, especially in PI, right? You're in pain, maybe there was a death or something, and having actually the firm help you, right? You're like, we do intake audits, so we go and it's like an undercover boss test that we do on some firms. We ask them permission and then we go in, and you'd be surprised the number of firms that I call, and like I am just in hold for like 5 minutes before someone answers, right? I'm like, yes, like, if I'm like, imagine I was just in a horrible situation, right? Like I lost a loved one or something, and I see your adverts, I'd see your marketing, and you say you can help me, but then I call you and nobody picks up the phone, right? I would much rather, have an AI, tell me, hey, the attorney can't help you right now, but you care, and that's why we're here, and I'll take all your information and we'll make sure, that he gets back to you, right?
Right.
Instead of blank.
Sitting on hold for 5 minutes, because somebody would hang up. Like, let's
yeah,
be honest.
I'm not gonna wait.
Like,
5
if somebody's
minutes.
in crisis mode and they want to talk to someone now, they're not going to sit around and wait.
And then the other scenario is, I'm originally from Mexico. I know my people. I know, for example, my mom's personality. She's gonna want to go and talk to someone who speaks Spanish. She speaks English, right? But whenever it comes to something emotional and critical, like, she's not gonna feel comfortable fully expressing herself unless it's her language.
Right.
And when doing these intakes, like I've been, testing them in Spanish, and they're like, hey, nobody speaks Spanish right now. Can you call back tomorrow? Not even like, hey, we're gonna call back tomorrow. Like, can you call back?
Call back. Our Spanish speaking person is going to be here between 1 and 4. Like,
right,
no, that's
right. So I'm like, hey, I have work until 5. Like, I can't call, right?
Right.
Like, it was like, well, I'm sorry. It's like,
right.
Really? Like, you is this really the sentiment of a place that's going to take care of me? And that's the type of doors it opens, right? A firm that, a Spanish speaker, a Chinese speaker, a French speaker, whoever it is, calls a firm in their own language where they're comfortable. Hey, we will help you, right? You're being taken care of. I will make sure that the team has all the details. We're with you. Much different. Sure. I mean, I know AI is scary, but when you start comparing it to the reality of how it works with humans, it's no longer black and white. It's a little bit more gray.
Right. Well, and then the other flip side of this argument is that a lot of times humans aren't great at intake either. So we have monitored some of the calls from the law firms that we work with to see how their intake is doing, especially when we're listening to LSA calls. And nothing is worse than having a real human answer the phone when somebody's in crisis mode. Hey, my husband was just in a motorcycle accident and is paralyzed. Can I get your name and number? No, like, and this is coming from a real human, and just lacking that empathy and having to train those skills.
And it's not their fault, right? Because, like, part of how we are, we get dull, right? Like, you're a person answering these phone calls, the first 100, sure, you have empathy in you to be like, hey, I'm so sorry. Once it's a thousandth call, it's just another call. You're like, oh, okay, what's your number? And that's what we saw as well. Like, we have an empathy score when we do this intake audits, and the amount of empathy that is expected of a human, and the what they usually criticize AI for, right? A lot of these humans don't even have, right? And it's not their fault, right? It's just, it's hard. Like, it's also like, you're in there, and your job every day in and day out is to hear people complain about the worst scenario possible, and trying to console them is not an easy job for the intake staff either, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a huge challenge. And so I know that there are a handful of good agencies out there. There are a handful of good AI uh, workflows out there and AI agents out there. Uh, but if somebody is listening today and they are, first of all, deciding whether or not to use an AI employee or AI agent for their intake, and they are evaluating different companies that are out there on the market, what should they be looking for?
The first thing that we tell everyone is, whenever you go in to do a demo, do not let them show your recording. Do not let them do the demo through a website or a web form. They should be able to give you a phone number that you can call, and you can test right there
Yeah,
on the
test
spot.
drive it yourself.
Yes, because in the age right now of like vibe coding and ChatGPT and Claude Code and all of that, it's very easy to make a flashy demo, right? You
Yeah.
can angle it just right, but like we mentioned, the self-driving cars, right? That 20%, right, of edge cases, that type of stuff, you need to have a system that is well built in place that can handle those things. Because 100 calls is one thing. Once your firm has thousands of calls, right, like, you're going to run into a lot of these edge cases, and some of these edge cases could be $1 million cases, right? So the first thing we always tell the firms is like, hey, you don't have to choose us, right? We know there's a lot of good stuff out there. I know we do great work. If you come with us, we'll take care of you. But if you choose any other company, fine. Just make sure that whenever you test, right, you try it as close as possible to the real deal, right?
Yeah.
You call it, throw it some curveballs, and yeah, like, really push it to the limit whenever you demo it. I think that's probably the first thing to or the most important part out of all of this.
Yeah. Well, and as you said, you're not going to know how it handles until you push it yourself. Ask it the hard questions, throw it the curveballs, throw it the unique situations, and see how it handles. Throw it some gibberish and see what it spits back at you. Just like you wouldn't buy a car without test driving it, really get in there and see how that baby moves. Uh, and so I loved the phone booth that you had at PILMA. I thought that was a really great booth setup and a way for personal injury attorneys to engage with you guys and really test drive the product. But if somebody is listening today and wants to get in touch, wants to take it for a test drive, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can obviously go to our website, reflectlegal.ai. If you go and book a meeting, it'll be straight with me. The reason why we don't put the phone numbers live is because we want to make sure that if you're going to come and schedule a meeting with us, I can give you a demo that is going to be to your firm, right? If you're you do slip and falls, you want to test a slip and fall scenario, right? That pertains to you, right? You don't want to just do a generic like MBA or whatever it is. You get to see a little bit of the other things that the AI does, how it's embedded into the CRM, the case management system. So, and you'll get to talk directly to me or my brother, my co-founder. We'll be an open book. Any other tips and tricks that if you even want to talk to us before you talk to a competitor, go for it. We'll help out. The other option is LinkedIn. Just my name, Jacob Adverstein. But yeah.
Well, I will make sure that we put links to those in the show notes if people want to dig in a little bit further and see the capabilities and how far AI has come in terms of intake. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today, Jacob. It's been an absolute pleasure. And that's going to wrap up this episode of the Personal Injury Marketing Minute. If you want to learn more about Jacob and Reflekt Legal, again, we'll put those links in the show notes here. And if you are a law firm that is interested in growing and bringing in new cases so that AI intake can talk to them and convert them for you, feel free to reach out to me through Lindsey at optimizemyfirm.com. Thank you so much, Jacob. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Lindsey. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.